Okay, so on my screen, I have on the right side, I have blank where I'll type as I go. And on the left hand, I have empty stock chart right now, and then I'll start adding one indicator at a time so it makes all sense. So, and if you guys have any any questions, anything, just type them in slowly and I'll try answering them, right? But otherwise, I'll just keep speaking and the indicators I use so it'll make more sense to you guys. Now, right off the bat, the first thing I do, right? If I have a daily chart open, let's say, for example, if I'm looking to enter a position based on the daily chart. Now, I'm not going to talk about intraday here. Intraday we'll get into a little after. But right now, just the overall indicators, the ones I use and what they mean to me and how I use them. So the first thing that I do on my stock, so this is my chart right here. Right off the bat, the first thing I'll do is I'll add an EMA, exponential moving average. Basically what this is, so once I add, and then you can use any number here, 1 to whatever, but the ones I follow are 8 and 21 EMAs. I've been following this for the last 6-7 years. I came across this through one of the people that I followed, one of the very good traders. I still follow him. He puts in a very good analysis of the market and he uses these indicators a lot. And I just picked it up for many years and I understood how this one works, right? So the first one that we'll talk about is 8 EMA and 21 EMA. And just give me one second, guys. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now this basically EMA stands for exponential moving average, right? Basically what this is not the same as moving average. Moving average is usually known as MA or SMA, right? This is different than EMA. EMA is something completely different. The moving average is basically just the equal weight of the, like, let's say, for example, if I had 8 MA here, just an example. I'll go over it very quickly. Some of you might know, some not. Like 8 MA, that's the moving average of the last 8 days, like the stock price for the last 8 days, like the equal, you would add the closing or opening price of each day and then divide it by 8. Right? For exponential, it usually focuses more on the recent price action. It puts more weight on the price action, which is closer to the present, right? To understand deeper, I highly suggest that you go online, do some reading on this, because it's not something I can just explain in 1-2 minutes. But if you want to know the proper meaning of it, what exactly it does, then I highly suggest you do a lot of research on this, right? But EMAs are very useful. Most of the good traders I know, they all use it, right? But they might have their own different numbers. Some use 12, 26. I know Love uses 12, I think, right? Me, but I use 8 and 21, right? So the first thing I would do right off the back is, so on the left side, I have my chart open. And if I'm looking for an entry here on, give me a ticker symbol, any tickers that I'll just type it in. First one. PLTR, okay. Palantir. Okay, so as you can see here, now I have the daily chart open from October right here for the last 6 months almost, right? You can always expand it, it's up to you. But let's just look at the last 6 months, October, I think that's when it came out. So you can see here the 8 and 21 EMA. In the starting of November, how this chart basically rode the 8 EMA. Anytime it got extended, like to the upside here, you can see it came back to the 8 EMA and it bounced. It resumed its uptrend, right? And then eventually it got too extended here. And it came down, it came below the 8 EMA, and then 21 EMA was just right below, but then bounced up again. And then it just went into a chop. But right now, just looking at the indicators here, I would, if I'm following this indicator and I wanted to get a position in, I would not buy it here. Why? It's still below the 8 EMA. I would wait for it to cross the 8 EMA and then cross the 21 EMA as well. And then the next thing I want to see is the blue line cross over the 21, the red line, which is the 8 over the 21 EMA, right? So for example, so here right now, based on the EMAs, so it's in a bearish trend. I would not buy it here, right? But let's look at another ticker that might be crossing over. I don't know. Disney. Let's see, Disney. Nope, Disney also crossed down to the downside here, so it's bearish based on the EMAs. But right here in February, if you can see in the Feb, you can see the 8 and 21 as it crossed. It made a base here for a few weeks, and then as soon as the 8 EMA crossed the 21 EMA, it started riding to the upside. Like you could have played this to the upside, and your stop loss will be the 8 EMA or a close below, right? So that's the EMAs that I follow, 8 and 21 EMA. If the 8 EMA is crossing, so what's bullish? So the bullish would be 8 EMA crossing over the 21 EMA. And bearish would be 21 EMA crossing to the downside over 8 EMA, right? And then you would simply wait until, like if you're playing to the downside put side, you can play the puts here. But then again, I would not because it's just basing, right? There are more indicators that you need. But in a bull scenario, what I usually play to the bullish side, not downside, 8 EMA crossing over the 21 EMA, and then resume the trend. Another chart which worked out beautifully with this was Equity Ads, AT.TO. So this stock, me, Love, and a couple of other traders back last year in the summer, we bought this at $2 around this price right here. I didn't do nothing. I basically just let the 8 EMA ride throughout until it reached around $12. As soon as it got extended here, I sold my equity here, right? Still over 500% gain. Right? Let me just, somebody's asking for a passcode in Discord. So I basically wrote it and then it got extended. So this chart, I'm looking at it again. Maybe here, right now I wouldn't buy it here because there are more things I'm seeing on this chart. But I want to get back into this company, but not until the 8 EMA and 21 EMA crosses over, right? Because that's how the algos work sometimes. That's when they give the bullish signal, right? So this is just the one indicator I use, 8 EMA and 21 EMA, and I want to spend too much time on these, right? But I'll go over a little bit. But the rest, I expect you to do your own research and watch a lot of tutorials on these, which will take hours. So that's number one, 8 EMA and 21 EMA. Next that I use is MACD. It's very popular. You've all heard of it. I hope you're all using it because this is one of the most popular indicators used. What happens with these indicators is when you're looking at a certain indicator for an entry, there are other millions of traders looking at the same thing, or thousands, depending on the ticker, how popular it is. Because at the same indicator, when it gives the bullish signal, a lot of people are going to buy in, and that's when usually the spike comes, a short term. So you can take advantage of those. So to the same chart, let's add MACD to it now. So MACD, right here, and let's update my chart. So now at the bottom, I have a MACD. Now, I don't just use one indicator when I make my decision. I use a few at the same time, and I'll go over. So we'll use the same chart for now, AT.TO, Equity Ads. Here you can see the 8 and 21 EMA is in a bearish trend, but then at the same time, MACD, you see right here, when the 8 and 21 EMA crossed over to the downside, MACD also crossed down. So let me just pull this chart out so it makes more sense. So right here, when you saw the EMAs crossed down, the MACD also crossed down right here. So here, if somebody that bought equity in the stock or options, whatever it may be, here's how you can tell that the stock may be making a top. All these indicators pointing to a downside here. Here's where you would take your profits, not entry, but here's where you would exit. I am personally waiting for an entry. I'm probably going to wait until the MACD starts crossing here in the coming weeks. And here I can probably see this right here, cross the 8 and 21 EMA. Somewhere in this level, I'll see it cross. And then I can potentially play this stock to the upside again until here, the resistance. This is resistance right here. And then here I would evaluate again, is it going to make a double top or is it going to go through the resistance and then continue going up? Right, so that's how, so these are two indicators right now, very strong. But let's look at a third indicator, which, and so MACD basically, guys, it's usually 12, 26, and 9. How these numbers come, the calculations, I won't go in it, but I just look into how they do it. These two lines, if the MACD is extended, now on different tickers, you'll see the numbers higher, lower. So I usually avoid them. For me in MACD, the only thing I'm looking at is these crosses right at the top to the bottom or at the bottom going up, right? Another indicator that I would, let's say, for example, Amazon, just an example. Amazon is in a chop fest right now. According to MACD, it's still not going to move up. Unless this goes higher, maybe MACD will open up to the top here, and then we can see a bullish trend. Let me just find a proper chart where this might.
Hey guys, I cannot hear. Can anybody hear me? Is there any voice coming from?
Everyone can hear.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong. All right,
Maybe you're
figure it out.
check your settings for Zoom speaker, I guess. Yeah. But so Twitter, me and T have been following this stock for many months, and we were just looking for certain opportunities. We played it many times. So on the monthly, and these indicators, I mean, on daily, you get the sense, obviously, but then the same indicator, the more you zoom out, the more clear direction the indicators will give you. So for example, here, Twitter monthly, I remember playing it here when the monthly 8 and 21 EMA was crossing, the 8 EMA was crossing the 21 EMA, and then the MACD was also opening up here. We played this right here. And then again, it chopped. I did not touch the stock for many months, maybe intraday trades. And then last year in August, September, if you've been with us, since May or June, you know that we played Twitter back in the summer as well. One of my main biggest entry going long was when the MACD was crossing right here. Sorry, when the MACD was crossing, and then the EMAs were also crossing. This is the monthly chart I'm looking at. Pay attention. So on the monthly, the 8 and 21 EMA was crossing, and then the MACD was crossing right here. And when you see these indicators cross on, so if you the more you zoom out of the chart, the more accurate these indicators are, right? So here you can see last year when the MACD crossed and the EMAs crossed, I wrote this Twitter options like from $1, $2 to like over $10, right? And I wrote them, I did not sell. I don't care what happened here until we had a little extension here and then it was trying to bounce off here. And then you could have played it again on the monthly, right? When it made a big move here and right here in October, I believe it came down to the 8 EMA. You could have bought options here again for a risk with a little stop loss, right? If it broke, then in the 21 EMA, this is where you could have averaged down as well, right? And me, I'm personally looking at Twitter again one more time. I'm just waiting until the monthly comes and tests the 80 EMA. It might not, but I'd rather be more safe, right? So I'm just waiting for it to come, test the 80 EMA, and I will play that bounce. Trust me, and you guys can follow this along, right? Anyways, back to so MACD simply if you're playing on for swings, look for MACDs which are about to cross. And something I do not like on Amazon on the monthly, the only thing that I'm scared of here is trying to hold this 8 EMA right here on the monthly, but then the MACD is also trying to come down here. If Amazon does not break above the 3,300 level in the next 2-3 months, we're likely going to see 2,600 on this, or maybe a bounce off the 21 EMA, which is right here. We're likely going to see a bounce. So I'm very positive on Amazon, but then I believe in all of possibilities. So this right here, if you look at this 21 EMA where I pointed, this is 2649. This is a 2649 level, right? So this is so if Amazon does break out the 80 EMA on the monthly, because it's been trying to go, but it's not going, then this might happen. What happened in the past last year? You see all these, how it bounced off the 21 EMA, right? And here. And here. And based on the monthly, other than 2008, 2009, the big financial crash, it's been riding the 8 and 21 EMAs all these last years. If it does not break above 3,400 in the coming 1-2 months, Amazon is likely to come and test 2649 on the bounce. And here we can play the bounce for 200-300 points to the upside. Like if that's what will probably happen. If it wants lower, who knows? But based on this is the bounce I'm looking at in the next 2-3 months. So I already have it in my head in case if it does not break 3,400, I already know my next play on Amazon. But it's not going to happen overnight. It might take some time for it to play out. So as well wait. See, AJ, when I say zoom out, now it depends on your position. Like based on the daily, my outlook might be different. It's been holding these support levels. I might just play this channel, right? It depends what option I'm buying. Based on the weekly, is crossed down. So here, so Amazon based on the weekly, and if we look at it, you can see that the 21 EMA crossed down on the 8 EMA, right? And we just gotta wait. So right now the 8 EMA, maybe if it crosses above the 21 EMA and we get some bullish candles on Amazon, it might go up again. But see how the weekly MACD wants to reset to a positive side, but the monthly wants to come down. So which one is right? Right, all these things kick in. But I think to the upside, because not only you can't look at the indicators alone, you have to look at the market sentiment. You got to see what the markets are doing. It's not just the indicators alone. The e-commerce has been really strong for the past few months, as we all know, because a lot of things got shifted online. So obviously, a lot of customers. So technical is one thing, but then you got to think fundamentally too with the news coming out. You got to look at all the upgrades which are coming in, right? But these are just the indicators to help you make a high probability decision with so you can make the best possible decision, basically, right? And then on the monthly, this MACD can simply touch and reverse again. It doesn't have to go down. Even if the MACD comes down, that doesn't mean the stock's going to come down. The stock can still continue going up, right? So that's how I use MACD. Now MACD, you can also use intraday as well. Let's say, for example, I go on SPY. I know LB, he uses a lot of these indicators intraday for his scalps when he does it. So right here, I'm looking at the 5-minute chart. Okay, now this is simply just for the intraday if I'm using for scalping. So as you can see, if you're in a scalp on SPY, you can simply follow 8 and 21 EMAs or any moving average which might fit well with your analysis. So here, the MACD also crossed, and so did the 8 and 21 EMA. You could have simply bought calls here with a stop, very tight stop, and you could have followed all along to the upside, right? So if you're using an intraday trade, so there was a cross right here, and then MACD also crossed right here to the upside. So you could have played these 5 minutes, right? And the same thing here. 8 and 21 EMA crossed, and then the MACD was also opening up, which signals bullish and that trend, the 5 minute. But based on this, you cannot buy a long entry. This is the 5-minute chart we're looking at. If you're buying a long entry, then you got to zoom out. You got to look at the daily chart. You got to look at the weekly chart, right? So all these things kick in. So I hope the MACD makes sense. But again, to understand what exactly MACD is to write it down is moving average convergence divergence indicator, right? Oh, that's spelling wrong. Yeah. So yeah, and there's a lot of information on this indicator online. Again, watch as many tutorials you can, right? They'll make more sense. So far, 8 crossover 21 EMA is bullish. If a MACD is also crossing at the same time, then that's a double confirmation that you have, right? The more you zoom out, it depends on the longer position that you're taking or whether you're taking a shorter position. The next indicator which I use is RSI, also known as relative strength index, right? So let's go to this chart and add RSI to it now. And these are the 3 which I use the most together. And then there's a 4th one which I also add sometimes. So I have RSI right here. So here you can see it's been riding, but then at the same time, this is a 5-minute chart. Remember, this is a 5-minute chart. Now RSI is basically, you guys always hear LB saying oversold and overbought, right? If the stock is oversold, you buy. If it's overbought, you sell, right? So oversold means there's an entry for a buy, like a bounce, and then overbought is where you sell. Now, again, if you're looking at the 5-minute, then it's very short term. So here, every time the RSI touched below, so if it's below 30, it's oversold. Above 70, it's overbought. In between, it's just following a trend, right? And so on the if I'm looking at a 5-minute chart just to scalp, my MACD is crossing over here, so are my EMAs, but at the same time, there's also an oversold bounce right here. Here. See all these 3 indicators how lined up. You could have simply followed all these 3 indicators, like with, as soon as they broke out, and you could have made whatever money you wanted to. Options went from 10 cents to like $4 here by the end of the day on SPY in the last 1 hour, right? So indicators are very powerful, and here's where you would have sold. Obviously, well, not even here, maybe once your money doubled. but here you can see it's extended and then it's overbought. The market closed. Now let's look at the daily chart and see how they add up. Okay, so on the daily, the story is completely different. It's still bullish. It bounced off the ADMA. It's right at the resistance here. So here, if I'm looking at SPY, like how would I analyze it personally? It's right at resistance, sitting at all-time highs, which is bullish on its own. And then the MACD is curling up right here. And then I also see that the RSI is trying to go. Now, if the RSI is above 50 and it's moving up, it actually means that the stock is strong. There are funds coming in, like there's strength in the index. It doesn't mean that if it goes above 70, you should sell. No, sometimes above 70, it just means that it's very powerful, right? It's overbought, that people are still buying it. Sometimes it continues for weeks, it continues for months. But sometimes at the oversold, if you see something bearish, then you can obviously play to the downside or take your exits, right? For me personally, I'm just looking for a SPY close above 400. That'll basically confirm the uptrend. So let's look at the monthly. So monthly is completely bullish. I don't see anything bearish here, right? It took over the price action from last month. It's at all-time highs right now. But again, once it gets overbought, it doesn't last for one day. You gotta look at the historicals too. Look how many months it was overbought for. From 2013, from here till 2015, it just kept going up, right? Whenever it got a little too extended, it came back to the indicators, kept going up. And every time, 8 and 21 EMA is all it's been riding on the monthly. When it got below it, it bounced pretty quick. It came up pretty quick. Now on here, last year, let's say, for example, if in the second, third month, it didn't come back to 21 EMA, it stayed here, that would have meant that it's bearish. Then we would have been in a bearish territory for a long time, right? How do I know this? Because historically, I've seen it like back in 2008, for example, you can see it failed to hold the bounce and look where it went. For many months, it just kept coming down. And this was a disaster right here. A lot of people lost a lot right here. This wasn't scary here. People actually made a lot of money. But in 2008 and 9 was when people even committed suicide in the stock market. There's a lot of news that you can go through, right? So the more you zoom out, the longer picture you get. But if you're playing for intraday, like you're playing for scalps, then you can go in 5 minutes, you can go in 1 hour, 2 hour, it depends, right? Yes, on higher time frames, it can stay oversold, overbounced for a long time. It just basically means strength. On shorter periods, you can cash the up and downs on the stock, right? You can cash that next half an hour movement that you can predict, basically. But again, is it always right? No. Like on the 1 hour, for example, in March, like I use a lot of 1 hour charts for my technical analysis, right? Here you can see it was oversold, right, on the 1 hour. And then the MACD was also way below its usual levels, right? Or I mean, based on the hourly, like it was way too low. So here, as soon as I would have waited, I wouldn't have taken the entry, right? Because it could have easily flushed again. But to play the bounce, here's where I would have played it. On this candle, maybe, right? Came back up, gained the gains, and this candle, when it recovered, this candle, I don't know if you can see, but this candle right here, as soon as it recovered, I would have probably bought calls and then just played it to the upside for 50%, 100% move, right? Why? Because a lot of indicators were lining up. RSI was oversold, MACD was going to point back up, and then EMAs were also curling up, right? And then again, you got to look at the market sentiment as well, but this is just based on the indicators alone. And then obviously to add to this, you can always add certain things. Now, let's say, for example, on the hourly chart right here, you could simply just added this trend line right here. And as soon as it broke above it, you could have played this move, right? So on this candle right here, when it retested again right here, and it came above the ADMA, you could have played it again here to the upside on Friday when the MACD was opening. Are these indicators making sense? I hope if you guys are picking up a few things here and there. Great. So these are the three main which I use: 8 and 21 EMA, MACD, and RSI. Now the couple others which I will add sometimes are, there's something called stochastics. There's full, slow, and fast stochastics, right? There's a little difference between all three, but I usually go with the full, right? That I just put in the full stochastics. Now, it's similar to MACD, right? But just to add more confirmation, now, so this is adding up really well on this chart right here. So let's just do SPY. This is a SPY 1 hour chart. Along with over RSI being at the bottom, MACD crossing up, and then the 21 EMAs, 8 and 21 EMA crossing here, the full stochastics were also strong. If they're near 20, the full stochastics, if they're near 20 and I see the curl up going up, this is also bullish confirmation until it reaches here. And here I do see that it's a little over its levels, but again, it can stay here like this for a long time, right? But what you want to see here is this black line, right, which is on 3, is the black line crossing over the red, which is bullish. And then if it crosses down, it's bearish. But something else might be bullish, so it really depends. What's the orange line? On where? The red here is the 21 EMA, the blue is 8 EMA. So anytime you add indicators, there will always be legends. Right here, I have the 8 EMA blue right here. So on whatever platform you use, there will always be legends, right? Pointing to what they are. And the black and orange is simply right here. This and this, right, on legends. Now to understand, like what you're asking is a little, the RSI is right here. RSI only has one line. There's no red or blue line. It's basically one line with measures overbought and oversold. There's only one line here. There's no, this is RSI right here, right? But when the color is red here, this right here, this is extremely oversold. So people are probably gonna expect a bounce, but then again, this can always stay low for a long time. These indicators are not full confirmation. They just help you with your probability, your decision making, like, you know, making you more right in the long term if you use them on a proper basis, right? So fourth indicator which I use is full stochastics, and there's the 3 kinds. There's full stochastics. There's slow and fast as well, right? I'll leave that up to you guys to study, homework for you guys to figure out. So there are 3 types. I usually use the full stochastic, which has the overall movement priced in, right? And then the 5th one that I use now, another indicator which is very powerful. This, you just have to keep an eye on it when it comes out, right? It's the golden cross. Now, golden cross is basically, there's golden cross, then there's death cross, right? Now, these indicators are not always right, but then sometimes they work out very well. They can give you a certain warning in the market. Golden cross is basically the 50 days moving average crossing over the 200-day moving average, which is extremely considered to be bullish. It basically means the last 50 days, the price action of the last 50 days was much, the stock was trading at a higher range average than the last 200 days average, basically, right? And then the death cross is when the 200-day MA crosses over 50-day MA to the downside. I'll give you guys a fun fact here, which, you know, I was just reading on these. I remembered. So in 1929, the crashes that happened in 1929, 1938, 1974, and 2008, there was a death cross that gave the warning. Basically, what happened, the 200 MA crossed below the 50-day MA. So let's look at these. So I'll just take out all the indicators out right now. I'll simply use the 50 and 200 MA. They're very popular. And simple. So simple moving average. So they're known as MA or simple moving average. So 50 and 200, they're one of the, when it comes to averages in the market, 50 and 200 is the most powerful and the most widely looked at, right? So here on the daily, basically your SPY has been riding the 50-day here. 200 is way far. The last 200 days moving average is 350, but the last 50 days is 385, right? Extremely bullish. And then again, 200 is usually a magnet. Every time a stock extends, they usually come down, and then 200 MA is where the bounce would be. Or here, it keeps bouncing off the 50-day MA here. Let's look at a different chart where we can see a proper golden cross. Okay, so Twitter right here. It failed to bounce. So a lot of people on Twitter, just if we're looking at these indicators on the market, this area right here, a lot of people probably bought in on Twitter right on the 50-day MA because 50-day MA, in most cases, the stock usually ends up bouncing to the upside. But here on Twitter, it didn't happen. It closed below the 50-day MA, right? And then they're making a reverse candle here. There's a good chance that Twitter might even go sideways and then let the 200-day moving average catch up and then bounce again. Because Twitter has made a huge move in the last few months. It's more than doubled, right? And then MACD is also taking its time to reset here. RSI is probably going to start bouncing off soon, and the stochastics also need to reset. So personally, I would not buy Twitter here. Just looking at these indicators, I would wait, right? Let's look at a golden cross. If there's a golden cross coming anywhere. Nope. Nope. Google, nope. Tesla. Okay, so Tesla, I always say this in the market that you just got the bottom indicator is full stochastics, FULL, this one right here, full stochastics. That's the bottom indicator that I use. Now Tesla right here, as you can see, let me just zoom out of this maybe. Okay, so on the daily, the 50, now this is scary. This is one scary looking chart right now for me personally. A lot of people I know are bullish on Tesla. They think it's going to make a big move up. Maybe it does. I don't know, right? But here, if this 50 MA average, the closer it gets to 200 MA, the scarier it's going to get for Tesla, right? The bigger the gap it remains, the better it is. But here, if this line happens to cross a 200 MA in the coming months, maybe let's say it'll be June, July until they meet. If Tesla stays here in this range, in July or August, I'm expecting a death cross on Tesla. If that happens by December, the stock could easily be at 400. Right? This is, I'm not saying it's going to be, but this is just based on the indicator what I'm seeing. Right? But then again, if it reverses back and the 50 MA can easily just curl back up and then the bullish trend resumes again. And then the MACD here. So let's look at Tesla indicators. Right now, Tesla is in no man's land, in my opinion. I have no idea what it's going to do, but I do want to pick up equity in it below 400 or 450 around that level. So looking at this, so the MACD is pointing down. This is bearish, and the MACD this is in the bounce zone, but then it's crossing down again, indicating there's more downside. RSI, it failed to go up. It's also coming down, right? The stochastics have fallen down a lot, right here, where is pointing to more downside. So technical indicators are pointing to more downside in Tesla. And yeah, AJ will go over volume, right? But right now, see these indicators, based on these indicators, is basically telling me to buy puts, but I'm not going to buy puts on Tesla. It's basically in no man's land. There's more things to see here. It's just in no man's zone here. However, if it does break 600, then there might be a put play all the way towards 200 MA. Right. Another thing that I probably will do if Tesla does touch the 200 MA, let's say in the coming weeks, I will play Tesla to the call site for the same day or for maybe 1-2 weeks out for the potential bounce. 200 MA is a very highly likely the stock will bounce off right away. If it goes below 200 MA, it will probably bounce back again above it. Right. So let's look at some Chinese names which have done a lot of downside. So right here, perfect example of a death cross on Baba. Right, I didn't even see this because I don't put 50 and 200 MAs a lot. But right here, it gave a warning. It basically gave a warning on the death cross right here that there's downside coming into Baba. Right, there was already some here, but see how the 50-day MA just flushed right here, it caught the 200 MA. This basically suggested that the overall 200 days average is catching up to the recent 50 days, right? And then as soon as it crossed here, it gave it tried going up, it didn't, and then it just broke down, complete breakdown. So the next what I'll be looking at is now maybe in the coming weeks, this 50-day MA and the 200 MA cross is going to maybe take another 2 months if we get some bullish upside to Baba. If it gets to 245, 250, we'll probably have a golden cross. The MACD is really below, so I'm expecting the MACD to be here around that time. Let the stochastics reset and the RSI. So for example, if I'm going based on the 50 and 200 day MA, in June, July, or August is when the entry will come based on these averages if I'm following them. I already have leaps, so I think Baba will do well. right? But this is just an example of a death cross, right? Sometimes it might not work on the same day. It might take a week to play it out. Let's look at Baidu. So Baidu bounced right off the 200 MA. So if you guys were watching Baidu on Friday, and if somebody picked this up, the 200 MA, you know how Baidu fell here? If somebody played this bounce off 200, you don't have to wait until it touches 200 MA. Maybe you just play 2-3 points earlier, right? If you picked up Baidu here on around 2-3 o'clock, or even 1:30, I think, whenever this happened on Friday, and you bought calls, a lot of calls went from like 5-10 cents to $20 in the last 1 hour, both ways. The same day on put side, calls went from like 5 cents to $20, but then from 5 cents to $20 on the call side. That's an insane, crazy move. Even $1,000 invested into a call like that, you end up with a 6-figure profit, right? And all you had to do was not get scared, just play this bounce off the 200 MA right away, right? So let's see how it performs in the coming weeks, but this was a perfect example, just a bounce off the 200 MA. The stock was at 350 not too long ago. It lost over 50% value in the last 7-8 weeks, or since mid-Feb, so 6 weeks. And if you saw this on 200 MA, you could have played the bounce right here. This. So sometimes when stocks hit the 200 MA average after many months, there's usually a bounce the same day. So keep it in mind. All right, now let's look at another Chinese name, IQ. Ooh. So check this out. So the golden cross here, it didn't work. It says chop fest. There were golden and death crosses. It had nothing to do with the stock. The stock did its own thing, and it just broke below the 50 MA and the 200 MA. It's in a complete chop fest. If you go in the monthly, I mean, what indicator will you use in this chart? You can, the only thing that you can do here is just play in a rectangle. Play this stock in a rectangle. That's all you can do for now. That's it. Just play this bounce up and down. It's stuck in this rectangle. Just play the bounces up, down. That's it. That's all you can do for now. However, if it closes below this line right here on the trend line, then we might even see a bigger flush. Who knows? Okay. So golden cross when the 50-day closes above the 200 MA, and then death cross when the 200 closes comes down to the 50-day MA. And they work the best when the averages are quite done for many months or years, and then the stock is also making a top, and then it's about to cross. Then when it's usually true. So you can go over many stocks and see. So there's no 200 MA on Palantir because it has not been trading for 200 days yet, right? Booking no better, no snap, no pins. Oh, another stock that you could have perfectly played. Now let's look at MO. Let's look at the monthly chart. I did go over this in the chart, one of the charts. If I annotate this chart with my indicators, the first thing I would do is draw the trend line right here, right on the monthly, right here, and I would probably draw it like this. So this is what I bought the position based on, basically, when I got MO leaps, or not leap, like more of a swing, right? As soon as it broke above the trend line right here, that was the first signal that I got, right? And then also I looked at the MACD, which was right here, across on the monthly. On the monthly, when the MACD crosses like in a negative territory to the upside, is very bullish, right? It failed the last 1-2 months, but it still gave a bounce to play, right? But here, this cross right here basically confirmed, and then the breakout trend line that, okay, you know what, the move to the upside is coming, right? And then the RSI was also strong right here. The RSI was trying to go up right here, right? The RSI, you can also, another thing, see the RSI also has some resistance. Don't forget this thing. So RSI was bouncing here. It was kept getting rejected, and then it broke through here too, right? And the stochastics also. See, this is one of the best charts I saw when it comes to technical analysis, right? All the indicators were just lined up so well, right? The full stochastics made its own base here, and then finally, after so many months, right, or 2 or 3 years, it broke out of right here. It made that little cup and a handle on a freaking full stochastics. So see how you can play with these indicators and just get the perfect entry sometimes. And this is a stock where you usually take a full position. And those calls that we called out for July went from $1.60 to 6. They were trading at $7 something on Friday, right? And that's all you need. So when I say be very picky with trades, this is what I mean. This is the type of trade that you need to find. There are hundreds of tickers in the market. I'm sure you can find something similar, which is about to happen to a different stock, right? Another stock is CVS, for example. Okay, so something similar, not exactly the same, but this is just a monthly chart, and I know LB and T, they've all leaps on this, right? So if you just go on the monthly channel right here, on the monthly, it broke out, it tested, there was a retest, and then it broke up again. Now, so that's one confirmation right here to buy leaps. I'm not saying a weekly, but buy leaps on these kind of contracts. And then MACD also opened up right here, providing more bullish. The last time that happened was in 2011, MACD on these levels. Is happening after 10 years again. So if the MACD, once it does open up here, we can actually see a very nice uptrend towards 120, 130. All you gotta do is just ride. Look, right? And the stochastics are strong. This is signaling a lot of strength. And based on history, it could do something like this, right? So when you're looking at this, look at the stock history, right? When it broke, so it could simply just stay here in the strong zone, and RSI can also stay oversold for many months, right? So our team did pick up leaps on this, and I'm pretty out there up right now. And once it passes through this resistance, so once it crosses a close above right here, you guys are going to see a big move into this name probably. If it fails, then it fails. But for now, a close above here, you guys will probably see 90, 95 in the coming months, right? Yeah. So Love and T called this play in the room a couple of weeks ago, if you were paying attention. So this is another trade. This is what I mean when I say you gotta be very, very picky with your trades, right? This is a very good example of technical analysis right here on this CVS if you're playing to the upside, right? Now, another thing that I will add to this is maybe my other indicators, which I follow, 8 and 21 EMA. Let's see how they're looking on this. Exponential average, 8, 21. Now, if you saw what I just did on the CVS chart, that's all, like that alone is worth, like it's priceless. I don't know how to explain this to you guys, but it's priceless, right? Now the 8 and 21 EMA also crossed, which for me is a very bullish signal. And you basically simply ride. You see this blue line right here. All you gotta do is just ride it. That's it. You just ride it, right? On my leaps, if I bought the leaps here, my I will ride the 80 EMA on the monthly, and then my stop on. You know, if you're very patient, you can sit on the leaps for like the entire year. You'll probably make a lot of money. I'm not saying you should, because it can simply come to 85, leaving with profits, and then dump again. We don't know. That you have to manage your account, right, or scale out. But my entry, I did not get into the stock. I wanted to. I missed out. Maybe I will. Who knows, right? Maybe I'll get it on a close at 76, 77 on the daily. Maybe I will buy 1-2 weeks out. But this CVS chart technical analysis that I did was worth a lot. Like in this sense, these are the trades that you need to look for, right? And this is going to be a big one. If it fails, that's a different story. But based on the technical indicators, it cannot get better than this. And this is a monthly chart I'm looking at. So you buy leaps on this, right? RSI, Carson, yes, I love RSI, relative strength index, right? I mean, so if we're just looking at CVS, for example, on the monthly, you can see that the RSI right here, it broke above since 2016 and 17. It broke above this line, showing us massive strength. Like there's strength that got added to this name basically, right? So if somebody told me what stock would you play a spread or option on right now, CVS might be one of my top picks based on technical. Now, another thing that I can do if I'm really, if I really want to get into this trade is go into the fundamentals, right? Just look at the fundamentals, how their numbers are looking, and then based on that, I can see how much money I want to put into it and how long I want to go into it. Most of the charts in the market right now are all over the place, but if you can find setups like this is a beauty in its own, right? It held this price for the last 5 years, since 2017, right? So 4 years. And a break above this, we might even see a big move like Twitter and MO. Like 80, 90, 95 can come so fast, and those leaps will double, triple. Why? Because IB is probably the one those, and as soon as it crosses these levels, those options will be really expensive. So guys, these are some of the indicators that I use, right? 8 EMA, 21 EMA, MACD, RSI, stochastics, golden, that's I keep an eye on these, right? And then obviously I draw my trend lines are always there. So trend lines, you always add in, right? Charting patterns. There's a lot that we can go into it. Like it'll take me hours and hours of speaking about all the different indicators out there. But me, to keep it simple, I cannot have like a proper map with streets drawn onto my chart. I just want to look at the world from for example, like from a zoomed out, so it's easier for me to make my decision. The more charting patterns, the more trend lines, the more indicators I use, the more my mind will get boggled up and confused, right? But these are the 3, 4 which I've been using for many years, and I was able to work well with them, right? But there are a lot of indicators, right? I mean, if I go on Questrade here, for example, if I just go on, can you guys see my Questrade platform? Yes, great. So if I go under studies, for example, so there are momentum indicators. There are 3 in here. Then there are oscillators. I use a lot of them. I do use oscillators, Bollinger Bands, Keltner channels. I'll show you on the other chart. But you can see there's so many indicators, right? Then there's support and resistance. There are moving average bands, pivot points, trend indicators. There's so many. Volatility. There's so many, right? Many times you'll hear people mention VWAP, volume weighted average price. A lot of people use this for day trading, right? When on the 5-minute chart to see which way the indicator is moving. On SPY, VWAP works beautifully, right? If you use it. But then going back to this chart alone, I mean here, so you can see the overlays. You see all these indicators right here. They're just way too many. And then right here, it doesn't end. And there are many more. If you go on TradingView, there are even more. So there are a lot of indicators that you can use, right? And trust me, I tried using them all. It's not healthy. I mean, it messes up with your mind. And sorry, somebody sent me a message. Can you give like an assignment based on like a split of stock? And see, Oscar, for that, if you that's something that you should just put on your paper. Like it's like asking for homework. I mean, you can do it. Like I always say, track your trades. When I say track your trades, look at what they do. The only way you're gonna learn if these indicators work for you or not is it's not something that you can learn by watching a tutorial or by me speaking. I can only tell you what I'm using and what I look for, but to understand them properly with your mentality, with your like your behavior with the market. I don't know how your emotions get involved when the candlesticks move up and down. I don't know how your body reacts. I don't know how your brain's going to react. You have to understand these things. There's a lot of psychology involved in this, right? If there's a big red candle, I might behave differently than someone else would, right? So that's why they say trading. I mean, if it was this easy, it wouldn't be. But yes, I mean, anything that you want to do, let me know. I can always help you. Just send me a DM. I'm always there. Yeah, do send me a DM and let's do it. No problem. I'm okay with it. So somebody asked me if I can pull up Bezel monthly. No, if the AJ, if 200 crosses 50 to the downside, that's a death cross, right? That's a death cross. If the 50 crosses the 200 to the upside, that's a golden cross, right? That basically means the recent 50-day moving average is crossing the last 200 days. Usually you'll see stocks on 50-day average riding it, right? But like, for example, Tesla, we might see a golden cross sometime this year. Once, well, these are the 8 and 21 EMAs I have, but right now the 200, let's just go over it very quickly. Simple moving average, average 50 and 200. Okay, so here on the legend, the green is 50 and this pink is 200. Right now, since the 50 is above the 200, the only cross that can come on this is the death cross. Sometimes they don't mean nothing. They might just be a cross, nothing else, and then quickly cross in a few days back to the upside, right? So here, if there are more indicators pointing to downside on Tesla here, right? I mean, in the coming weeks, we'll see how the other indicators line up and what the market sentiment is. And this week, their delivery numbers are coming out. For Tesla and NIO have delivery numbers, so there's fundamentals coming out. So indicators are not always right. They don't mean nothing, but yes, sometimes they're just lined up so perfectly that you can take advantage of them, right? So this year for Tesla, it's the delivery numbers that matter. None of these things matter nothing. I mean, they do, but at the same time, delivery numbers might move this to one side or the other. I don't know. So yeah. And so on PLTR, Bucky, so Bucky message asking PL. So on PLTR, I am basically waiting for the, so let me take off the 50. Let me just take these off. I'm on this. It's a new stock, right? I mean, so the indicators are still not perfect on this, but the ones that I do use are 8 and 21 EMA. I am simply waiting for this blue line, which is the 8 EMA, and the red line, which is the 21 EMA. So as soon as this crosses this, and then there's some bullish confirmation. See here on PLTR, there are different ways to look at it. For me, how I analyze this chart, that there was strong support here. This was strong support, it broke below. And now it crossed right here. The next support on this is right here, around the this level, or where this bounced off from. Then another thing I'm looking at is the MACD is silent. It's not doing nothing. It's very quiet, right? There's no strength in the stock. The RSI has been weak since the selling started here in Feb, right? The stochastics have yet to reset. I would not take my entry. I did take an entry here above the 21 EMA when I took leaps, but it failed, and look what happened, right? Maybe I should have waited for the blue line to cross a red line. I didn't. So here, in the coming weeks, if this 50, if the 8 EMA can cross a 21 EMA, now this is one of my indicators. Some people will use a different EMAs, 12, 26, maybe 10 and 20. People use all different kinds, right? It just see the ones that matches with your style, or the one that matches with the stock. So here, 8 and 21 EMA, I think it works great with the stock. So I'm basically simply waiting for this to hold the 20s, the low 20s here, right? The low 20s. And I think as soon as it can get above 24, that's also when the EMAs will cross to the upside. And then the MACD will be ready, and we can potentially see a move to the upside, right? Now, another thing is the stock is very popular on Reddit and is one of the most traded options, the popular stock right in the market. So market makers will play a lot of games with us, right? And then another thing that you can see is the trend line also, right? It's unable to break above the trend line here. So maybe once we get a move into this zone right here in 26, 27 next time, and the indicator lining up, we can probably play this to the upside again. Is that making sense? And then there are a lot of patterns that one can play, right? It's not just the indicators alone. Some people will look at head and shoulder or all these. But Goldman Sachs, I think, has done a great job explaining to you guys that not the patterns, indicators are nothing, but they do, the market plays with them. They do help. I'm not saying they don't, but more than that, you just have to look at the overall market sentiment and the indexes and what the markets are doing, right? Okay, so Visual monthly. Now this is a monthly, so let's just annotate the, sorry, this is the daily. Also, this is the daily. Let's just add to the daily very quickly. On Visual, what I see is a few things that I do want to see, that it made a huge base. So there's a big price movement in the stock, right? From, see, certain things that you want to understand in the market are the percentages that the stock gives up. It was trading at over $4 last in August, but it lost over almost more than double the value within a couple of months, right? But then it made a huge base, so there was a lot of demand here. Obviously, we can see like they didn't let the price break down. A lot of volume started coming up here as it was going up, right? And then it made the little handle on the daily where it broke above it, yeah. And right now it's basically trying to, is having a hard time crossing this resistance. But I think once this stock can go above $4, If Vessel gets above $4, you can play this up to the $6 side. Why? Made a huge base, broke out of the resistance. It fired, tested the lower amounts again. There's more demand here around the $3.54 level. Comes back above $4. Basically signaling it with that there's demand for the strong and there might be an uptrend starting based on the daily. The MACD is resetting and these indicators are also resetting, right? And then obviously I do want to zoom out on the weekly and see what's up with the stock. On the weekly, before 2020, this does not mean nothing. All these candles, they're useless. This stock basically started last year. And based on the weekly, again, I do see this stock moving up higher in the coming months. And if you're playing this stock, you must buy a lot of time because short term, it might give a lot. So this, I keep seeing a cup and handle pattern on the weekly and the daily, right? There we go. So if it can, it made a base, it's retesting the price right here now. If as long as it doesn't break down and it can get a close above $4 on Brazil, I think we can see a good move towards $10 at least. If not 10, to be on the safe side, right? This resistance line right here. So around 7, 8 is where the supply area would be again. So if it can close above these levels right here, around here on Brazil, this will confirm that there's more demand and then we can see another upside towards this way. Now, why do I see this? Because in my life, I've seen so many charts that look the same, and this is exactly what happened with them. They were exactly set up the same way. The volume came in the same exact patterns. So this is not something that I'm just telling you based on this chart, but I've seen these same charts so many times in the last 7, 8 years, and this is what most of the times ends up happening, right? And my stop obviously would be below this line right here. My stop would be below a close of this. Then they can simply take this back down to $1.25 again, like so fast, if they end up selling it. But again, along with technical, please do work on the fundamentals. They matter. It's not just the technicals alone. If it was the technicals alone, a lot of people would make a lot of money. Trust me. Right? Sometimes the market makers will set technicals in such a way to suck you in, and then boom, the move goes the opposite way. Right? How many times have you traded based on technicals alone, and then you got burned? Most of the times, right? So along with technicals, you must know what's going on in the market, like what's happening. You cannot do technicals alone. So there has to be fundamentals. Then you got to look at the sector all over, like how's the sector looking, right? I mean, for example, right now, LRCX keeps going up, right? Is near all-time highs. So is AMAT, right? In the semiconductor field, MU is just up there, but then there's AMD, which is pretty down right now, is more than 20% off from the highs, right? Now, there are two things. It can catch up to other semiconductors, or this might just go sideways for a while. We don't know, right? But then based on the demand, based on AMD, what they're doing is probably going to go higher. Maybe there might be a squeeze. They might even just take it up in 1 or 2 weeks. We don't know, right? And then NVIDIA is also having a hard time going back to the size. So let's see. So sometimes you just have to look at the market overall to make certain decisions. Play the names which are stronger, maybe. And yeah. So yeah, guys. I think so. These were some of the indicators that I use personally. I hope they helped. But there are many more. See the ones that fit your style, your trading style. And so lessons like this, sometimes they're very hard to attend. They're very hard to listen to because, like not many people like this kind of knowledge, but some who really want to get into it, they do. Because I watched so many tutorials in my life on YouTube and where not, I used to get bored, trust me. But then sometimes you just have to go through it in order to learn. That's the only way, right? Making money is not easy. Trust me, if it was, a lot of people would be rich. It's very boring. And so I hope that helped. I did want to go over the verticals, but I'll do a proper lesson on verticals maybe next week, right? And LB will go over the charting session this week, probably Wednesday, I think, right? So we'll let you guys know. And so yeah, so I hope some of these indicators did help. Now, the certain topics I wanted to cover were, which I was not able to cover right now. I wanted to cover volume and options, right? You know what? Let's do this live. This will be better live. Volume and option and how it helps. This I will do live when it works. I've done this once, I think some of you picked up, but this will be a live. Volume and option. This is one of the most strongest things I've learned recently, and it helps a lot. Right, so this is what we'll work on. But thank you guys. I hope that made sense. And if you attend as a Sunday night, congrats. And do some more research in the market, see what's going on. And we'll see you guys in the morning.
Thank you so much, Ricky. I appreciate you.
You're welcome, buddy. Thank you guys.